great thing about starting out, playing heavy metal and hard rock is if you listen to, like advanced players, it really gets your technique together. I mean, you can't. When I was coming up, Ozzy and Van Halen were everywhere, and the original Ozzy albums, the first couple records, had Randy Rhoads, who was a huge influence. And of course, Eddie. Nobody liked either of those guys. So I want to talk a little bit about Randy Rhoads in the sense that one of the ways I was able to incorporate his playing was not by copying him per se. I mean, I did learn a few of his solos, but I think what helped me the most was sort of analyzing what he was doing, analyzing some of the patterns. Okay, so one of my favorite licks of his is, I'll just play this real quick. You can probably recognize it. Everybody knows what that is? Yes. Okay, so let's look at that lick and figure out what exactly is going on. Well, if you look at it closely, it's actually this. Right? So I think it's really important to slow things down. Something like that, you're never going to just jump into it and be able to play it instantly. So I would take the way I sort of absorbed his playing, and others too, and I still do this today with even John Schofield and others who I'm studying, take little bits and pieces and analyze them. So if we just look at this, I could see that this is a triad. I don't want to take a deep dive into music theory, but triads are important. And even if you're not going to, if you're not planning to learn a lot of music theory, that's okay. But you should know what a triad is and what that sound is. So a triad is really, it's a root, a third, and a fifth. Right, and there's major triads, which would sound like that. The minor triad, which is what we're doing now. Diminished triad. Augmented triad. Right, now if I go back to the minor triad, and I add a seventh. Right, those are the first four notes of Randy's Over the Mountain lick. So what's he doing? He's going up the arpeggio, down the scale for 3 notes, and then he goes down one more and then goes back again. Sorry, 3 notes and back. So even if I just take that much of it, I have this great little thing to practice. Right, now how could I do variations on that? Well, I could change it to major. Right? I could change the mode. And right now the mode is, you would call this either the natural minor, or if you're up on your music theory, Aeolian mode. Right, but how about Dorian mode? Right, that's another minor mode. How about Phrygian? That's the next minor mode. then it's exactly the same. But if I keep going, it becomes this. All right, Lydian. Mixolydian. Back Aeolian, which is where we started, and Locrian. Okay, so what I just did was that lick in all 7 modes. All right. Now again, it's a lot. It can be a lot to absorb. So let's go back to the first few notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So I'm going up the arpeggio, down the scale, back up, and then down 4 notes, and back up. So much I can do with just that, right? So I can say I have this rhythm. Okay, so one variation I could do is to start it on a different part of the beat, right? Because right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What if I started a half note later? 1, 2. That's an 8th note later. Now it has a totally different feel. Inspires other ideas. What if I move it to the next position? Alright, so that's all the same lick, just moving around in relative modes. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. So I do that all the time. I do it all the time with different licks. I mean, it's been a while since I've worked on that one, but just to give you an example of how I'm studying. So I think every major guitar influence has brought out these different revelations. That's an Ozzy song, no pun intended. Totally, that was an accident, by the way. But yeah, every single player has shown these, possibilities. Like, wow, there's a whole world of things. So I want to talk about another major influence, who is Jimi Hendrix. He had an influence on many. And in the case of him, I learned a lot. I learned about blues from his Red House, right, which is... traditional blues. Right, with 7th chords. So that's a type of blues. But this is also a type of blues. Right. AC/DC, the Jack. Right. They're all blues. Something like like a jazz shuffle. So, the blues takes on many different forms, but it is really the root of so many different styles of music. So anytime I hear a player, I don't really do blues. I'm kind of, what? So yeah, the blues is really important. So even if you're not looking to be like the next Bonamassa or whatever, it's important. I know, and I hear it, Hendrix. You hear the blues in Hendrix. You hear the blues in so many great players. Gary Moore was a great example, and he actually went back to the blues towards the end of his career, and in a way that for many people that's like the peak of his career. So Hendrix, back to Hendrix, he really studying Hendrix really showed me the importance of the blues as a root of so many different styles of music. But there were many things learned from studying Hendrix. You just can't emphasize that enough. So one of the things I learned was position shifting, right, which is really important. So the first thing I remember learning where I realized, oh my God, I can't stay in one place on the neck and play that, right, was I'm tuned down actually, which is perfect for Hendrix. Right? So that first lick is up here, the next lick is here, right? But you can't, if you're not watching my hand, you don't know that. It doesn't sound obvious that I'm changing positions, right? So that's the case with a lot of his licks in general, but also specifically that tune. So I'll play a couple of the other licks. You see all that position shifting going on there? So, very often what's happening is sliding up, playing here, or going down. Alright, so you can get so much mileage out of it, just sliding into the, I tend to think of these as mini positions. So the Jimi stuff is great for that. And I think I've applied it to a lot of other music that I work on. I try to be able to go across the neck. So I might, if I'm just warming up, messing around, say I'm playing in D, I'm going to drop D. Drum. So I have a position right here. I have a position here. Here. Alright, so I'm constantly moving around. I'm never... Here, all I'm doing is going through the pentatonic scale. moving up and down the neck. Yeah, which is really important, especially when things are going fast. Which when I play with Testament, things are often moving very fast. So I may want to move very fast across the neck. So I can't. We can't wrap up without me playing some Testament. I always get at play some Testament. I play Testament all the time. It's not like I don't like to play it. I do, but something when I do these workshops, I like to talk about many styles of music. But I do want to talk about that a little bit. So there's a recent tune where I actually start out with the fingers. I do that finger thing I was talking about earlier, and it's a big help, and it brings up a bunch of different influences. So I'll play along with it, and then we'll see if you want me to play it again by myself. Fast forward to the solo, because it's long. We don't have that much time. So that's something that kind of brings everything together. I'm starting out with fingers. I'm plucking that whole thing. So again, it's the fingers in the beginning. The ending of it. That's really the influence of somebody I haven't talked about yet. One of my biggest influences, Eddie Van Halen. And I want to, before we open it up to questions, I just want to talk about some of the things I've gotten from Van Halen. I mean, so many. I think he tends to get overshadowed a little bit by his own work, like the Eruption licks. That's all fun and great, but what I really like about it, I found like these sort of common threads in Eddie's work, which are really interesting to me. So earlier in Eruption, right, he does the classical violin quote. Right. This thing right here. That is a 5-note group. I've noticed that elsewhere too. I've noticed that in, I don't know if you guys know this. There it is right again. Spanish 5. Again, little 5-note groups. What about this? So that, the beginning of that. Little quick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He does that all the time. And it's awesome because it never sounds the same. Another thing he does that's really cool, he'll take a simple pattern, like, and just go across the strings, right? So some of you probably know this. At the beginning of that. It's all the same thing. It's all. Even in Jump, right, which was years later. Right, but it doesn't sound the same. You don't really notice that until you start picking apart his solos. I was like, wait a second, that's very similar to this, but he makes it sound different every time. A lot of these great licks are just across the strings. Okay, here's another one. Right. This one. Back to Spanish Fly. Totally ruining it, but but you get the idea. So huge influence as far as not just tone, not just two-handed stuff, but just doing your own thing and taking liberties and you can find influences, of course, with Van Halen. There's a few. I think more than he admits. He came out. He's like, my only influence is Eric Clapton. Like, no way, dude. Later, he admitted to stealing a bit from Alan Holdsworth. But even then, he made it his own thing, and like nobody. So he's a huge influence, and Holdsworth is a huge influence too. And I had whole section I was going to do on Holdsworth, but I have a feeling we're going to run out of time and I'm not going to be able to take questions. And I want to take questions if anybody has questions. So let's open it up for questions. Okay. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes. So if anybody has questions, it's now or never.
Here's a good one.
Anyone?
Here's a good one.
What's that?
Can you sign these?
Oh yeah. I will sign anything you want.
There's a sharp. I'm gonna send it forward to you.
Okay. And also this guitar here is signed by me and for sale. And I also have, I mentioned I have about 10 copies of the live record by the trio, AST, and I also have the CD Planetary Coalition, which is my acoustic world music album. So I will sign any of that.
I'm gonna go online and check that out because
Yeah, please, please.
The way that you play guitar, it just are as a human being is just so.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, it's really an appreciation of music, and
Go ahead, dude.
I often think about, okay,
There you go.
what don't I know? And I don't, there's so much I don't know. I'm constantly,
We just keep on learning.
yeah, constantly learning. There's always new stuff to learn. And I see hands are going up, so very good. Mr. Heritage over here, he has my Heritage guitar, which is very rare.
You didn't bring it today?
He didn't bring it, that's okay.
Robert Fripp and King Crimson, what influence do they have on you as
Robert Fripp, I have and always had tremendous respect for him, but some music was a little bit over my head at the time. I got to appreciate it as I got older. I like it. I like to listen to it. But there is some music that, as much as I like it, I'm just not inspired to take the deep dive into playing it. But I listen to. I love Adrian Belew, but these are guys I like to listen to and just sort of absorb it. But I've got my hands full with all the other guys and girls. Yeah. Yes. Dimebag was great. Dimebag was a peer, though. So at the time, we had a lot of the same influences. I think, oh boy, she's ready.
That's from me.
Oh, okay. Duly noted. I think, Dimebag, he just did incredible things, especially as a one guitar band. I think Pantera was the one band after Black Sabbath that could get away with one guitar. I remember, playing with Testament in the early days. It was very hard the PA systems weren't as good as they are now. We didn't have in-ear monitors. I couldn't hear myself. And I just, one day I'm gonna play and it'll just be my guitar. And then I got into this project, Metal Allegiance, where I have the option to play, single guitar. And we'll do that. Sometimes we'll do covers. We'll do like a Heaven and Hell tune, or Van Halen, like a Ozzy, like a one guitar thing. But I miss having the other guitar, especially for heavier tunes. I think now when we play live, I insist we have to have Andreas Kisser, who's also part of that project, or Phil Demmel from Michigan, one of those guys. Because I miss it. It sounds empty, but Dime made it sound full with just one guitar. So I'm mad props for that. Yes, sir.
So what did you like about Joe Satriani? I heard that he taught you.
Oh, good question, and I am so sorry for not. That's actually a really good topic of conversation. I mentioned my first guitar teacher, who was a folk artist at Berkeley, Gary LePeau, but I had a few different teachers, and the last one I had was the guy who was considered a local legend, named Joe Satriani. And this was before he had put out even his first recording, Not of This Earth, hadn't even come out yet. It was amazing. A lot of the stuff was a bit over my head at the time, but within a few years, it came in very handy. He wrote out all the modes, so there were like positions for all these modes. I didn't know what they were, like, what is this? But then I started connecting it to chords, and then hearing songs that used the stuff. So he sort of gave me the building blocks, and also just being in a room with him and hearing him was amazing. We just jammed together again. The G3 came through the New York area, and I got to play with him and Petrucci and Phil Colin. It was a lot of notes, I gotta tell you. I tried to change it up a bit and do a little bit more like the funky Schofield stuff I was doing earlier and make that work. But Joe's just always been a tremendous influence. But I've in the years since, I've tried not to play too much like him, because that was one of his pieces of advice too. It's like, don't try to play too much like me. Don't try to play like the guy or the girl that everybody's trying to sound like. Try to find your own style, and it takes time. And doing anything well, I think, takes time. And a lot of learning guitar, I'll just finish on this note, is not fun, right? Like, has anybody ever done ear training? You guys all know what that is, right? It's not fun. It's like, somebody plays you these notes together. What is it? Right? It's minor second. It's a major second. What's this? Right. What's this? It's boring. It's terrible, but it's so good for you. Sometimes the best thing to do are not fun. But you also have to remember to have fun. You have to have a balance of, and I think it's like that with anything. Is it fun to save money? No. Right? It's fun to spend money.
Yep.
But if all you do is spend money, you're going to be in trouble. Is it fun to lose weight? No. You have to exercise and eat kale and do all these healthy things. Right, and if you need to balance it out, you should treat yourself to a dessert sometimes. You know what I mean? But I think guitar is like that. It's like anything in life. You need to have discipline. You need to do things that aren't fun. You're not going to see instant gratification, and it's over time. You're not going to see progress. If you go to the gym right now and work out, if you look in the mirror, you're going to notice nothing, right? But if you do that regularly, you're going to notice a difference. And learning an instrument well is the same thing. And one of Joe Satriani's biggest lessons for me was just seeing the big picture and not expecting instant results. Yes?
What did you steal from Chris Oliva?
What did I steal? More rhythm guitar, in a way. Because he had these great riffs, like... not so much lead stuff, but rhythm stuff. And I really liked the early Savatage stuff in high school. And I had no idea where they were from. I couldn't believe they were from Florida. And then all these like ultra death heavy bands started coming out of Florida. And a lot of them were influenced by Savatage, but they just took it in this whole other direction. And then you've just got the whole Death and Cynic and all these ultra heavy bands. There must be something in the water out here. Way in the back, yeah. Yeah. Oh, you hand to hand.
Actually, first of all, my dad has the same guitar.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's like my dad used to do that stuff, and he's still learning how to do it.
Okay, this comes in different colors, I should add. So the one in the... You see the poster, the advertisement for this event. That's a aqua burst model with a whammy bar, which I was never a big whammy player, but I got invited, this was a huge honor for me, I got invited to play tribute to Alan Holdsworth last year with his band, and you can't play that stuff without a whammy bar. So I needed one, and I'm actually enjoying it. I try not to get too dependent on any gimmick. So I use a wah a little bit, but sparingly, and same with the whammy bar. Yes, sir.
Can you please play the practice while you preach solo? That's my
Yes.
solo.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a request. Especially with no band. You're actually in luck because I had to play it last week for a broadcast. I'm not going to say what it is. It's going to be announced soon. But so I actually had to play it. So I'm up on it. And we usually play it anyway. So yeah, sure, fine. Practice what you preach.